This message is brought to you by the Capital One Venture X card. Venture X offers the premium benefits you expect, like a $300 annual Capital One travel credit for less than you expect. Elevate your earn with unlimited double miles on every purchase, bringing you one step closer to your next dream destination. Plus, enjoy access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. The Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
This is Talkin' Rock. Talkin' Rock. Your backstage pass to some of your favorite rock artists. Here's your host, Meltdown.
I've been waiting to post this one for a few weeks now. I talked to Bones a couple weeks back. We had met up at a local show here to see the guys from Sponge, but I'd been talking with him for a while about doing something because he's got so many great Detroit stories, so many great Kid Rock stories. Listen, Bones and the Twisted Brown Trucker Band, the basic core of this band has been together for over 20 years. Some of the guys have been with the band for 30 years or so, and Bones is no exception. What a great storyteller. He's got some funny stuff to say, and I just love this. And by the way, this is only part one because we only got up to "Devil Without a Cause" coming out, and now the band is just starting to really break. Kid Rock, he's playing theaters right now at the end of our conversation, but. Then, of course, he would start to break. And for those of you outside of Detroit, Kid Rock has played every single venue in Detroit and sold them all out. From Pine Knob, I think he's played Pine Knob, which holds 15,000, 20 times. He's played Comerica Park twice, the baseball stadium where the Tigers play. He played Ford Field where the Lions play, sold that out on his 40th birthday, some 60,000 or something like that, and every single venue in between. But like I said, Bones just tells great stories. This is up on YouTube if you want to watch it. But without further ado, let's get to the man of the hour from the Twisted Brown Trucker Band. This is Jimmie Bones. Hey, Bones, how are you, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Every time we get together and talk, you tell so many great stories about the history of Detroit rock. And I'm like, you know what? We got to talk to Bones one day and hear your story. And so that's what I thought we would do today with you. And first of all, as I was coming into work today, I'm thinking to myself, when did you get started in this music business? And what was your influence? I ask bands that all the time, and sometimes a lot of these bigger rock stars you kind of know because they've talked about it a lot, but I don't know, what was your influence and how did you get started in music?
Well, way back, man, long before you were born. I saw this band on the Ed Sullivan show debut, and they were called the Beatles, and I think I was maybe 5 years old. And I can't say it blew my wig back because my mom used to shave my head back then, like this really 60s brush cut. But it kind of, did that to me, And then later on, I saw the Rolling Stones on there and a lot of the other British invasion bands. So that had an impact on me. I remember the next day, my mom and dad went out and bought the first Beatles record, or Meet the Beatles.
Wow.
And I played it over and over and over again. As a kid, we had our, Magnavox or whatever console stereo, in the living room. And I found myself singing to all the songs, but at that age, it was like, there are other vocal parts going on, and I found myself teaching myself how to sing harmony at a pretty young age,
And where did you grow up? What part of Detroit? I don't even know.
Well, I was born in Detroit at St. John Hospital on the east side, but my folks lived in Roseville.
Okay, Roseville, gotcha. And
home of the Ritz.
That's right, yeah. That was gone just before I got here. I got here in 1995. But yeah, it's so funny you tell that story about the Beatles because, you're a little bit older than I am. And a lot of the bands that I talked to I remember Frankie Bonelli telling me kind of the same story. There was a couple other guys, guys a little bit older than me. That was it. That was their gateway, was that Beatles on Ed Sullivan. So that's kind of crazy.
Oh, definitely. I mean, older cats than that would have been influenced by Elvis Presley, and a lot of the rockabilly stuff, which for me, came much later. But I was also somebody like, okay, well, the Beatles, let's check out who influenced them. And then I found out it was a lot of that.
Yeah.
That stuff, as well as R&B. And then the same thing, listening to CKLW and Keener 13 and all those classic radio stations, I heard the Motown stuff unfolding as it was happening, and the Stax,
Yeah.
all the bands that were on Stax, Wilson Pickett and Otis Redding and all of that stuff definitely impacted me because I heard it on the radio. The older cats from the neighborhood, they'd be out, being grease monkeys on their cars. And I was like this little kid trying to hang out with them. And they always had the radio bumping. So, I was hearing all of that stuff too. And definitely had an impact on me.
And so, what is the impetus for maybe picking up keys or playing the piano or whatever, and then what band do you join first to get your musical career started?
My mom and dad bought a Hammond organ in late 1969, and you got 10 free lessons with it. And it was really my mom and my sister that were going to, mess around with it. And then I just started, sitting down at the keys and everything and figuring stuff out by ear. And they said, well, do you want to try? And I said, yeah. So I started taking lessons at where they bought it, which was Grinnell Brothers. Really great teacher by the name of Bob Paddock. He was from St. Clair Shores and a really, really great Hammond B3 player. And as great of a teacher as he was, I was equally as horrible of a student. I think it came very easy, so I wasn't somebody that would dig in and practice. I just did what I needed to do to get by, but getting by was actually, pretty good. And, but he was very patient and just a really fantastic teacher. And then, so I did maybe 5 years of lessons, kicking bass pedals on Hammond. I've never had a piano lesson in my life, Never taught. I never learned classical music or any of the classical piano training that would have given me a lot better technique. But I've succumbed to my bad habits and made the best of them over the years. But really, the training that really impacted me most was that teacher, which was a turntable and then a piano or an organ, sitting right there and learning stuff by ear and trying to pick out the things that I was hearing in the records that I was following and everything.
And then what band do you join first to get your career started?
I was in high school and I was playing harmonica in class, and one of the other guys in class, guy named Don Cherry, of all things.
Yeah, we're big hockey fans, yeah.
Yeah, right. And he's like, hey, dude, can you sing? And I said, yeah, I can sing. He's like, I got a band. You want to audition? We need a singer. So he picked me up and brought me out to this church that they were rehearsing at. And it was a 4-piece band, another guy from school, and then an older guy that was already out of high school. And first thing we played was they launched into Going Down, the Freddie King song that Jeff Beck, really made famous. And I started singing, and then I played harmonica, did a harp solo in it. And they're kind of looking at each other. And then the next thing they did was Never in My Life by Mountain. And I did that, and I think we did Keep Playing That Rock and Roll by Edgar Winter, White Trash, and a few other things. And they're looking at each other, and I'm like, am I that bad? And they're like, no, you're in the band, bro.
That's great.
So, yeah, it was a band named Crossroads, and we were all like 15 years old, playing high school dances and the junior high school dances. The VFW Hall on Gratiot in Roseville used to have every Friday night a teen dance, and there was about 5-6 bands from the area that would rotate playing that,
And so that starts up like kind of your musical career. And I have to imagine that at that point you're talking about playing VFW halls and what. Now you're on stage. Now you're singing in front of people, and you're getting like some sort of maybe adulation or whatever. And that can become addicting. Probably. And there's probably that party that goes, oh, I like this. I want to continue to do this. Am I right or no?
Oh yeah, I bought right into it. Yeah, man. I can get way more chicks doing this than playing baseball.
That's right.
I play baseball and all of that stuff. More of the athlete stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was really a fan. That wasn't my motivation. It always helps when you're 15 years old and discovering all of those things and going down those roads and paths. But really, first and foremost, I was such a big fan, and this is what I really, really love doing and fell right into it. It's like Keith Richards to this day. He's like, I'm still trying to figure this stuff out now, and he just wants to be a blues man,
Yeah.
All of us musicians, whether you make it to the big stage or, you're still being a weekend warrior playing bars or whatever you can grab a gig at, we're huge fans. We're nerds.
Yeah. And by the way, anyone listening, I don't want you to think that, Bones is an egomaniac or anything like that. But when you go up on that stage and you get some sort of reaction from a crowd, it's got to be gratifying. You're like, oh, yeah, I like this. And plus, like you say, you're a huge fan.
Yeah, it does. You feel accepted, and it's like, yeah, this is cool. I like this.
So you're playing.
And it's fun to just make people have a good time by entertaining.
Right, exactly. And so you start playing. I imagine you start gigging then, and you start playing with different players throughout the city, and then you really become it at a certain point. You really become part of the fabric. And the Detroit sound, especially with some of those gigs like with on Sunday nights, we've talked about this before, you and I have, the Bears Den down here in Ferndale, and you're probably playing with all sorts of players around Detroit, right?
Oh, absolutely. I first started playing in bar bands and that. Speaking of the Ritz, the band that I was in at the time was Danger Point. And we played the Ritz before it became the Ritz was called the Main Act when they first opened up. And I played the very first night, their grand opening, my band, Danger Point. It was us, Bittersweet Alley, and Toby Red. And that was the bill for that night. But the grand opening of the Main Act, which then later became the Ritz. And
I got you.
Roseville fame and rock and roll fame in Detroit. Yeah. So, but yeah, playing, and then I'm getting calls that are like, hey, can you jump in? If you don't have a gig tonight, can you jump in playing keyboards with us? And the same thing with studios, recording. Bands are like, hey, we're going to go in. We'd like you to come in and play some piano or organ or synthesizer, backing vocals, whatever, So started hanging around studios a lot and getting some sessions and things like that. Before you know it, your name is starting to get tossed around and more things are coming your way.
Gotcha. So
Brought to you by the Capital One Savor Card. With Savor, you earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining, entertainment, and at grocery stores. That's unlimited cash back on ordering takeout from home, or unlimited cash back on tickets to concerts and games. So grab a bite, grab a seat, and earn unlimited 3% cash back with the Savor Card. Capital One. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details. This message is brought to you by the Capital One Venture X card. Venture X offers the premium benefits you expect, like a $300 annual Capital One travel credit for less than you expect. Elevate your earn with unlimited double miles on every purchase, bringing you one step closer to your next dream destination. Plus, enjoy access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. The Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
So you're playing all these gigs and doing all this stuff. Where in like what year do you run across Kid Rock?
Okay, so that's mid-90s.
Right.
And the long version of that is my first daughter was born, and I kind of took a hiatus for about a year. I'm not going to play anymore. I want to be home. I want to be around the house. I want to be, active father and everything. And then I get a call from Mike Nera, who owned White Room Studios. He and his brother Andy and Jeff Folks, the drummer, were signed as a band called Second Self in the early 90s. And then they found a guy. Back up. So a band that was on Sub Pop, Big Chief, did their record at the White Room. They were going to do their record release party. And for whatever reason, the keyboard player that played on their album couldn't do the gig. So they asked me to step in and just kind of be a hired gun for that record release party, which was at St. Andrews Hall. So I did that, and then they went off on tour for a while. And then Mike Nera calls me back and said, hey, we found this guy right outside the studio at a park, blind street singer, but he's singing these amazing songs that he wrote. And they're like Al Green meets Otis Redding meets Wilson Pickett, and his name was Robert Bradley.
Yeah.
So we want to track him and try and get him a deal. So I went in and started playing some keys with those guys. Ended up getting a deal with RCA Records and did the first record with them. And I shared the keys with the late, great Eddie Harsh.
Eddie Harsh, yeah.
Yeah, who was also a big part of the Bears Den scene with the Howling Diablos, and then later became the keyboardist in the Black Crowes. And so we did that record, and I went out on tour. But while we were doing the record, there's this guy keeps wandering in and out of the studio who I had never met, and he's got his, Dickies on and his big oversized T-shirt and, a beanie pulled over his head. And he was working in the back room, the B room at the White Room doing some tracking. And that was Bob. That was Bob Ritchie, Kid Rock. And he stepped in and he's like, hey, can you come in and lay some tracks on some of these things that I'm doing? And that's pretty much what led me to his radar was being involved with the Robert Bradley record. Plus, we shared a rehearsal space in Royal Oak, which is now Rust Belt Studios, where Greta Van Fleet did their first record and so many others.
Yeah, I've had a few drunken nights there.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I'm sure we all have. Guilty as charged. But, so, yeah, we shared the rehearsal place, and I would show up early for the Robert Bradley rehearsals, and Bob would be in there with his guys because he was starting to use live musicians along with, the more hip-hop approach to doing shows, which turntable and a DAT machine and that, bringing in live musicians. So I just fire up my rig and, it's very groove based stuff. I'm like, what key you in? We're in E on this one. I just start playing along. And Bob said, hey, when you're not out on the road with these guys, you want to jump in on some of my shows? And I said, oh, yeah, definitely.
Wow.
So, yeah, it fell together. It happened very organically.
And was he working on Devil Without a Cause, or was it before that?
No, not at all. This is about the time he had already put out grit sandwiches for breakfast and then the polyfuse method. And this is about the time that Fire It Up, the EP, had already been released. This is about the time of Early Morning Stone Pimp.
Got you. Okay.
So, some of the stuff that I laid down paid. I put piano on that. And then it was funny because I asked them one day, because I did do a show with them, and that was at the State Theater. And this is, which is now the Fillmore. And, I did not expect to happen on stage what I was witnessing being a part of this show. Because, I figured, okay, we're going to just go up and play. And then all of a sudden there's this pyro going on. It's like a 70s, you were going to see Kiss at Cobo or something like that, or Uriah Heep or Queen. And there's all of this, stuff going on that's like, whoa, this is like a big time rock and roll show. And I remember asking him, I'm like, why don't you go for a major label deal? And he's like, I'm moving all these records out of my basement. He's like, I don't really, at the time he wasn't doing well. Then, by default, then he started making so much noise with, nationally and everything that, there was a few labels looking at him. And one of them happened to be Lava Atlantic, Jason Flom.
Mm-hmm.
Andy Karp came and saw one of our shows at the Fillmore, and it all unfolded from there.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, what was the line? Hey, Flom, you want a hit? I got one for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great record.
Yeah, so I got one for you was Flom gave him a budget and said, let me see what you can do with this budget. Give me two really good songs. And I want to see if they can cut it for being on the record. So we went in, they weren't even written yet. We went into the White Room. It was Bob and I, Kenny Olson, Jason Krause, Stephanie we didn't even know yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kenny Tudrick played drums. Matt O'Brien from Big Chief on bass. And they sent a producer in that had worked on the Sugar Ray record. And we wrote and cut, I got one for you, and Somebody's Gotta Feel.
And
those were the two. And that was it. That cinched it. It's like, okay, man, go to work. You guys got this.
God, such good songs. So I remember the record came out and didn't really do much at first. It took about a half a year before that record started to get noticed, and then it blew up pretty quickly. Could you guys feel that inside the camp that things were really moving rapidly?
It happened almost overnight.
Yeah.
I mean, the first single was Bull God.
Yeah.
And we did the video for that. We did a show at the State Theater. And then, Bull God, we filmed after the show was done. It was like an encore. Okay, everybody, you're going to be in this video shoot. So we did Bull God to the track and several takes of that. And we started touring after, just prior to the release of it, actually. Atlantic put us out on the last half of that year's Warp Tour, the band's Warp Tour.
Yeah.
And we jumped on right here in Pontiac at the Phoenix Center outside of that. And that was our first date. And then we hit the road right after that. And the folks, some of the artists and the people that were behind the Warp Tour didn't take too kindly to us because it's like, a punk rock tour. This is a punk rock tour. They didn't know what to make of us. Several of the bands did go to bat for us and did kind of adopt us as their little brothers and sister, because by then we had met Stephanie. One of them was Reverend Horton Heat. They really took to us. And the other one was Murphy's Law. And then there was a meeting one day where they wanted to bounce us off of the tour. And Jimmie Gestapo, the singer from Murphy's Law, went in there, who's very, very highly respected among all of those people. And he's like, hey, and it was all over, ironically, on a punk rock tour. Bob's got a pretty foul mouth in a lot of his music,
Yeah.
And it was over that. They're trying to get us to tone that down on a Kid Rock tour. And Bob said,
Yeah, right.
said, fuck you. And Murphy's Law, Jimmie Gestapo went into the meeting and told the high-ups for the Warped Tour, it was like, you know what, you're saying he's not a punk rock band. He's the most punk rock thing on here because he told you to go fuck yourself.
Yeah, that sounds like him.
So from there on out, it was fun,
Hey, I'll tell you what, I'm just thinking as I'm talking to you. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask you one more question, and then one day down the road, we're going to continue this because you have so many great stories, and I don't want to cut you short, but I want to get to your stories. But because we're just really just getting into Death Without a Cause. I mean, we haven't gotten anywhere yet. But you told me a story at your house one time about, I think was it the first time you guys met Robin Williams backstage?
One of the times, it was funny because he comes in, we're playing at, I think the Roseland Ballroom in New York City. And it was the beginning of the Care Tour.
Okay.
So we did a leg of that tour, the Care Tour, where we wanted to go back in because we had already been out in stadiums with Metallica doing the Summer Sanitarium Tour and, headlining on our own in arenas. But this record, Bob's like, we're going to go back and do 3,000 seaters, 5,000 seaters, theaters, things like that. And then we'll jump into the arenas. But for a month, we'll do this. And so we're doing the Roseland Ballroom in New York City. And we do the show. And then there's, people coming backstage and everything. And then there's a knock on the door. In comes Robin Williams, and he's like, all right, who's got the 10-foot dick? First thing out of his mouth. And just the whole room just fell out laughing,
Dude, that is one of my favorite stories.
And he was just an absolute joy. But I mean, that guy, God bless him, he didn't have an off switch.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So amazing. Here's a story, okay. So I'm out on the road with Robert Bradley, and we play San Francisco. And we do the gig. We're getting ready to leave. I was like, hey, I'm going to walk around the block and get a newspaper. This is back in the old days when you read newspapers. And walk back to the hotel, and Mike nearest him, he goes, hey, that comedian just walked by. I'm like, who? That really funny dude. And I'm like, who is it? He's like, there he is. He's walking down the street. So he's like walking I had come around, the other direction. I'm like, I got to go see who this is. I go running past him like a weirdo. And then I get to the corner, I'm looking around the corner, and I start walking back to the hotel and holding shopping bags, walking down the street. It's Robin Williams. And, and he grew up in the Detroit area, went to Country Day.
That's right, yeah.
And I'm like, hey, dude, I'm from Detroit. And he stops in his tracks, said, really? What are you doing here? I says, I play in the band. We just did a show here last night. He says, it's a really great blind street singer and good, really cool rock and R&B band. I said, you want to meet him? He's like, yeah. He walks back to the hotel with me, and I introduce him to Robert Bradley and everybody. And,
That's awesome.
That was before iPhones, so nobody got a picture of this.
Right.
So, but Robert's he's like, yeah, man, I know who you are. You're funny, and this and that. But, we gave him some T-shirts and a CD, and Robert autographed it to Robin Williams. So that was my first meeting, Robin Williams.
Yeah.
It was like some weirdo walking down the street, just like, hey, brother, I'm from Detroit.
Well, Bones, this thing is going to cut me off here in a few minutes, but will you come back? Okay. Will you come back another time, and we can talk some more about dude? We're just starting to crack the circle. You're just starting to get famous now, and I want to hear the rest of the story. So, we'll do it again sometime soon, and we'll do a part 2, and everybody can hear the rise to fame and what you saw from behind your keyboard.
My wife was going to, when I was doing this, she was going to take the one smaller dog and just kind of go like this.
That's hysterical.
Yeah, Lee's a real comedian.
Hey, Bones, thanks so much for the time. We're going to do this again. I can hardly wait.
All right, man. Pleasure.
The dude is like a Detroit rock historian. I love it. Tells such great stories. He told me that Robin Williams story at his house. I was cracking up laughing. We were watching. It was one of the Olympic games from hockey. He's a big, huge hockey fan. So we'll text and talk about hockey and different things. But look for a part 2 coming up here in the future. Bones has, like I said, just awesome stories to tell, and I want to tell them right here on Talkin' Rock.
Thank you for listening to Talkin' Rock with Meltdown. You can help this podcast grow by giving it a 5-star rating and writing a review on Apple and iTunes. Plus, feel free to subscribe and share it with your friends. Until next time, thanks for listening to Talkin' Rock.
This message is brought to you by the Capital One Venture X card. Venture X offers the premium benefits you expect, like a $300 annual Capital One travel credit for less than you expect. Elevate your earn with unlimited double miles on every purchase, bringing you one step closer to your next dream destination. Plus, enjoy access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. The Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.